I'm Brent Adams. I've waited for years for a people's movement to spark, and once it did, I wanted to be front and center with my camera.
Quickly, these rallies and protests can organize online, first with the Arab Spring in the Middle East, and then it went to the United States with Occupy Wall Street. Well, now it's hit the Central Coast. Occupy Santa Cruz begins tomorrow. And early last week, the event was created on Facebook, and already more than 1,400 people have liked the group, and 225 say they'll be attending the rally tomorrow. That number is expected to grow as word gets out. It's on Twitter, too, with the earliest mentions of the event going back to just last week.
We're going to allow them to have their event, and as long as it remains peaceful and safe for everybody, we'll allow them to just carry on and do their business.
They have taken our houses through an illegal foreclosure process. So the smaller groups can define the key points and then bring them back to the general. Agree? Is this? No? Point of process would block, which is like, absolutely no way I'll let this happen.
Part of having a General Assembly, part of having a people's movement is the people talk. But how do we keep from all talking at the same time? How do we have all of our voices heard? It would be impressive if we managed to feel like we all had a voice in this group of a couple hundred people, 5,000 people for the meeting. The revolutionary part is the process, and it takes forever. And it's kind of like making sausage. You don't necessarily want to watch the process.
There's a division between the people of this country and the legal system of this country.
That's playing a giant good cop, bad cop game on us. We want to occupy something? Is that kind of where we're headed? Our public spaces are being taken from us, and I propose that we take some back.
I'd like to see a show of hands of people that can actually do the camping.
Like, how many people here are serious about coming out to an occupation regardless of the risk?
I would like to suggest that we occupy the courthouse. It's a good spot. There's parking lot galore there. There's all kinds of space.
They spent hours together debating the merits of various locations they might occupy, and they learned to communicate through a process that was new to most of them.
The reason I would choose San Lorenzo Park is that there's no laws that would be broken there as far as I know. There's already people living there from time to time, and that it is close to the courthouse.
It's legal to be in the courthouse, open spaces, 24 hours a day. It's not legal to be in the park, but you can still do it. However, people should be aware that they did bust us last year at the courthouse, and 4 people have been sentenced to jail for that.
San Lorenzo Park and the courthouse are right next to each other. 10 a.m. Thursday, October 6th at San Lorenzo Park. If you can sense on that, put your little thumbs up in the air.
They did it. After that first General Assembly, they broke up into the first working groups, such as media, food, legal, etc. One group stayed for an additional hour to hammer out a statement on nonviolence. The polarity of opinions on this particular conversation would go on to be one of the most divisive conflicts of this movement. They had collectively decided to occupy a park along the river. This park and the riverbanks were already occupied to an extent by the local homeless population.
My own. So I'm still living in the park or on the levee, catching staff.
Often. We're not staying in a shelter now. There's like a 4 to 6 month wait, which I did sign up for, because I don't want to I can't be out here with a baby, you know. Sometimes we crash on people's floors, but most of the time we just curl up in a bush. can't bring a baby home to a bush. You know? It's not even legal.
Welcome to Santa Cruz, where 2,000 homeless people struggle to survive among the millions of tourists every year. It's thought to be a liberal town, but there's a strong dichotomy here. The city council swings between liberal and more conservative eras, but it's still illegal to sleep outside at night. Santa Cruz is an activist town with a hippie legacy, but that hasn't helped the homeless as they brave the cold nights of winter. 2 colleges and a thriving tourist industry have driven rents sky high, while homeless people are driven under bridges and into the woods to sleep. It rained on that first day of the occupation in the park, but people came out. Folks brought food, tents, tarps, and lots of cardboard and pens. You know how Occupy folks love to make signs. Someone even brought a gas-powered generator. Folks began to meet each other and to see who was showing up for this first exciting day of occupying public space together. They braved a cold, wet night, and it felt great.
And to Santa Cruz, where dozens spent their second day protesting against corporate America. It did not begin with a peaceful start. There were a couple of incidents that turned some people away.
Well, the nonviolent protest got off to a violent start when a female transient took a swing at an off-duty San Jose firefighter. No.
No, I'm pressing charges. You don't hit people like that. Okay, you want to go? Hey, take it over, please.
On this first day of occupation in San Lorenzo Park, we begin to see the type of news coverage we'd begin to expect from KSVW and others. This clip was run in its entirety, showcasing a random act of violence. They'd ignore much of the positive aspects of the occupation and constantly focus on anything negative.
Look, I'm not done. I'm about to tell you what to do.
You know, as far as today, we had a couple loud disturbances that were a distraction.
We are working our best to promote nonviolence and bring nonviolence education into the space.
How do we include these voices and also encourage them to be respectful of our larger message?
There's a tarp set up, but the Parks and Recreation, the city's Parks and Recreation, showed up about an hour ago and asked them to take it down. They're hoping they can get a 24-hour reprieve.
The General Assemblies were robust and folks began camping next door in the park. Local activists, students, and townsfolk began meeting daily. I'd been frustrated by the seeming apathy of Americans for years. Now here was a people's movement right in my backyard. I was there every second that I could be. People ignored their various political differences and began working together. But a clear rift had been identified when trying to craft a statement of nonviolence.
The Occupy Santa Cruz movement is philosophically opposed to physical violence and/or harm against people, and is strategically opposed to the destruction or defacement of property.
Besides the General Assemblies, Occupy Santa Cruz began hosting the local community to various events intended to attract folks and get them interacting. As the movement spread from Occupy Wall Street across the country, towns like Santa Cruz enjoyed a resurgence of community activism. People came out and got to know each other as they shared food, joined the working groups, attended the General Assemblies, and felt like they were making an impact.
I just gotta say, this is beautiful. This is the people coming together right now. I've never been a part of anything like this.
In well over 1,000 cities, millions are demonstrating in solidarity with our brethren in Liberty Park in New York City.
Just like the one here in the cities across the country, there's an Occupy led by young people who are creating a non-hierarchical, self-organized space and defending it, a space for democracy, which is about the most radical thing.
It takes me and you or many of us to stand up and start organizing more, start supporting your community more, start loving yourself more, start helping the children more.
marched on the banks regularly. People withdrew their money from the large banks, or at least tried. Here's a viral video of a couple of young women at the downtown Santa Cruz branch of Bank of America. They tried to withdraw their money,
The sign out. What if I take the sign? I need you all to leave right now.
but instead were kicked out as the cops were called. The bank locked the door behind them.
There are 46 million poor people in this country. What do we say to that? Occupy! There are 25 million unemployed people in this country. What do we say to that? There are 10 million foreclosures going on in this country. What do we say? Women make 77 cents on the dollar to a man. What do we say? There are 2 million people in prison in this country. What do we say? They've deported 1 million people out of this country, undocumented immigrants in the last 2 years. What do we say? Why are we poor? Because they are rich. It is not that they are rich and we are poor. They are rich because we are poor.
Before Occupy Santa Cruz, there was Peace Camp 2010. Camping at the county courthouse has a tradition in Santa Cruz. Long before the Occupy movement, people braved the elements and sheriff's deputies without the safety of a national movement. These brave souls stuck it out for more than 2 months. They did get a bit of press coverage, though.
I'm at Dinesh at the Santa Cruz County Courthouse, where homeless activists have been protesting city ordinances for more than a month.
Demonstrators have been camping out outside the Santa Cruz County Courthouse, protesting the city's no camping law. It bans anyone from sleeping outside between 11 at night and 8:30 in the morning, which protesters say they just want to be able to sleep without being ticketed by police.
19 citations were handed around. 7 people were arrested all over the weekend in connection with the camping issue that has been playing out at the Santa Cruz County Courthouse. For more than a month, many have been sleeping homeless in front of the county courthouse to protest Santa Cruz City's ban on sleeping outdoors. Even after the police sweep this weekend, some protesters say they're not going anywhere.
Peace Camp 2010 protesters may have been cited, but they haven't given up.
Day number 34 of Peace Camp 2010. This big blue lump here actually is our attorney, Ed Fry, sleeping on the deluxe inflatable mattress and whatnot.
Ed spent cold nights on the steps, though he has a family and a comfy home. He was arrested trying to bring awareness of the illegality of the basic human right of sleep to the people.
They're approaching him now, and they've got him ringed, and they're telling him he's got to get up.
Many sought refuge with the camp, a safe place to sleep, but not safe from the authorities.
Sir? It's our attorney, Ed Fry, eminent constitutional attorney here in Santa Cruz County, trying to convince the law officers to cease and desist of their own volition.
There's no public shelter.
Our attorney very, very angry at this point.
Fuck out of here. No, I'm not gonna, you're gonna put him under arrest. We're not gonna, get the hell out of here. Leave him alone.
Our attorney very, very upset and angry at this point. Ed Fry is now physically blocking the deputies from getting to this individual.
$70 an hour, $100 an hour for each officer? Is this the way to do it? Let's have a public dialogue about it.
At times, there were as many as 50 people sleeping on the steps of the courthouse. All knew they risked arrest and could face 6 months in jail for the crime of sleeping.
The law Now, these demonstrators are protesting city laws prohibiting sleeping outside. Now, you remember what you were doing on July 4th? Well, that's when this protest started, just to give you some context here.
You Chris?
I am.
Hey, Chris, you have a warrant out for your arrest. So I'm
All right.
you go ahead and place your hands behind your back. Just go ahead and step to the cap.
You guys should go to the city hall! Get out of here!
And move to City Hall they did.
Mr. Mayor, good morning.
Where they faced the city's anti-camping laws enforced by the SCPD. Here it's illegal to sleep anywhere outside of a building between the hours of 11 p.m. and 8 a.m. It's also illegal to lay underneath a blanket, even if you're awake.
Staggering new numbers of homeless people in Santa Cruz County. Number of homeless up 22% from just 2 years ago.
The law itself is hideously unconstitutional and ludicrous on the face of it to illegalize something that is necessary for the function of human life.
The meters are from the 1950s era and are coming out of retirement for a new program called Imagine Positive Change. 8 meters with a metal corona saying Imagine will be placed on highly visible corners on Pacific Avenue.
I got a pool going, a betting pool going. They won't last longer than 48 hours before they're destroyed by local activists. It's just another way to shame and embarrass people who do what I do for a living.
Feed a meter, help the homeless, and it's called Imagine Positive Change.
They want to use old parking meters. Instead of being hassled by people looking for spare change, they want to help the needy by allowing people to put change in what they call a homeless meter.
Instead of giving your spare change to somebody who may just be using it to go buy some booze or drugs, you can know that your money's going to go to somebody who really needs it and it will be used in an appropriate way.
It's just another way to shame and embarrass people. They won't last longer than 48 hours before they're destroyed by local activists.
Christopher Doyen logged over 100 videos. Then, as Anonymous hit the news, he found new notoriety. Notice the hat.
He calls himself Commander X and says he's part of Anonymous and orchestrated the Orlando project. He asked us to hide his identity.
The power of Anonymous is that we have the ability to affect change on the internet. You have a site online, all of a sudden we snap our fingers and that site is gone.
1 turd in 34 days, and I think I'll go ahead and own up to that.
I'd like to state for the public record that this press conference is being held against the advice of my legal counsel. This document alleges that I am the notorious hacker activist known to the world as Commander X. I am Commander X. I am in association with the global internet freedom movement known as Anonymous. And I say yes. I am immensely proud, humbled to the core, to be a part of the idea called Anonymous. It is also claimed that I am a member of the People's Liberation Front, a shadowy and infamous group of cyber warriors with a quarter-century legacy of nonviolent resistance. And I say that I am not only a founding member of PLF, but I am its leader. And ultimately responsible for all actions done under its flag. I'm a street person. My name is Commander X. You can damn well expect it.
47-year-old homeless man has pleaded not guilty to charges that he joined an anonymous organized cyber attack that temporarily shut down Santa Cruz County servers. Chris Doyle was arrested yesterday and is being held until a bail hearing scheduled for Thursday in U.S. District Court in San Jose, California. Not much is known about Doyle, except that he is homeless. Derman was sketchy on the details of Doyle's arrest and vague on other things. He declined to confirm or deny whether his client is Commander X as the indictment alleges, or if his client has taken part in anonymous activities as claimed in the indictment.
Christopher Doyen, also known as Commander X, the notorious anonymous internet hacker, shot and logged 66 discrete videos to YouTube.
1 week strong and going. We have held our ground. It's day 11 of Occupy Santa Cruz. Day number 12. Wake you guys up? Okay.
But they said tonight. They said tonight.
Santa Cruz Police Department cruisers here. Hey, anybody want to say what's going on?
What's going on?
Occupy Santa Cruz successfully occupied both city and county properties with working groups and general assemblies meeting daily. The camp had more than 200 tents housing both activists and homeless folks. There was a library, medical, conflict resolution, and kitchen areas. There was a fully stocked kitchen with many different people volunteering to cook and clean. The generosity of the community at large was bountiful. There was some early confusion as to whether the homeless folks were functioning part of the occupation and should be fed with occupied food, but that changed once it became clear that they were a larger part of the occupation. An occupation is as much about food as it is about tents.
You know, people want to help. There are restaurants that are helping, there are people who show up and bring, you know, surprises that you can't feed everybody. There are people who sign on to do a dinner, particularly at the General Assemblies. We had, like I call it, a couple of Martha Stewart Food Network moments where people went all out for feeding people.
This experiment in community was happening in cities all over the country, and for the time being, it was working.
Yeah, it's going great for me, and I guess everybody else too. We haven't had any problems, nothing too serious. We're still here. Sometimes there's a little bit of chaos, miscommunication, but every day we come out here, you know, together and we live together, communication gets better as we get to know each other, you know, and that's really how we're building our bridges, you know. I wish we could just start talking to the cops more, and maybe we could build a bridge between them, you know, but that hasn't happened. Communicating so hard nowadays with others, it seems like. And that's why I'm glad this is here, because kind of gets people back together.
Going to a General Assembly in a bit here.
With one of the working groups?
Yeah, the Police Interactions Working Group.
Okay. What's the file?
Just an informational recommendations that the working group has put together for people in the camp to have a unified response.
Now to the Occupy Santa Cruz movement. Today, the city of Santa Cruz set a deadline for all of the campers to move out. For the last couple of weeks, about 100 campers have been squatting in San Lorenzo Park. This week, a county parks worker was assaulted, and the complaints about the mess are piling up.
Occupy Santa Cruz is now being ordered to vacate Santa Cruz. Complaints have been mounting as Occupy Santa Cruz and the homeless have been camping at San Lorenzo Park. Now, today, the city issued a permit to the group with a deadline to move on by noon of Wednesday, November 16th. Despite that order, Occupy Santa Cruz plans to push forward.
We're actually working on a permit for the group, which will probably have a deadline in there in terms of a date by which we expect the occupation to no longer be there.
There's really two different groups setting up here at San Lorenzo Park. On this side, there are the homeless encampment, and on the other side, there's the Occupy Santa Cruz campers. But police don't differentiate between either group. They're both camping illegally.
In all honesty, I think that some of the people who are with Occupy Santa Cruz are homeless, and I think some of the people who are homeless are not causing any problems and are contributing to our cause.
Some folks have criticized police for not moving quick enough.
We have to respect the ability of individuals to voice their opinion and protest, but we also have to monitor the impact that it's having on the overall community.
Now that Occupy Santa Cruz has been served notice to vacate, they're going to discuss their options during their General Assembly.
Whether or not we want to maintain that occupation there, or whether we'd like to maybe go some other places so that we can refocus on kind of what our goals are. To a certain extent, we haven't been able to focus as much as we would like to have because of some of the issues that have come up.
Now, police hope by issuing the park permit with the November 16th deadline, that will allow them to dismantle the camp in a timely manner, and Occupy Santa Cruz members say they'll abide by their own nonviolent mandate. Dan, Aaron.
All right, thank you, Phil. The new permit also requires the campers to provide portable toilets and bars them from using the restrooms in the county building or even the ones at San Lorenzo Park. Also limits them to 50 tents. Currently, there are about 100 tents set up.
Donnie, you can't over to talk to you.
I rarely took my video camera into the main camp out of respect for the campers. News cameras were prevalent and made those camping feel like they were under constant scrutiny. The activists didn't like cameras around because they expected a bit of anonymity. Occupy Santa Cruz was constantly wary of undercover cops and news reporters, but actual police officers were a regular sight in the camp. When police were present, I was afforded a bit of cover to videotape, but it didn't help suspicions about my identity. The guy I'm following here is a city parks officer who normally patrols the river area and is familiar with many of the folks camping here. Every time an officer is in the camp, they are surveilling and collecting data to use against the camp and Occupy Santa Cruz.
Restricting the size of our assembly, and you are telling us to leave, and you are telling us that we're dirty, and you're telling us that we shouldn't be there.
There's a difference between being able to say what you want to say, which you can at any time, anywhere, and having an impact, just a real practical impact, practicalities, practical realities, practical concerns.
Will you send the police to come take us, remove us from the park?
I don't know.
You don't know?
Bathrooms have been closed off to people. Why aren't you working with us?
There has been a lot of defecation, things like that have been found around the park.
If we have 51 tents, will you send the police to remove one of them?
I don't know.
And what is your choice?
I don't know. Well, the police department has discretion.
This office does have discretion over whether or not those laws are enforced and the police are sent to remove us from the park. This office does have discretion.
It does.
Your office has the power to protect our right to peaceably assemble in the park and talk with each other, build community, share food.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that's something that, police does all the time. People. I mean, if somebody were to show up there and try to, do you harm in some way, the police department would be responsible to try to protect.
We are not asking for the police to protect us. We are asking for you to not send the police after us.
The bathrooms in the park are closed at night, and that is a serious health and safety problem, I think, if a lot of people are there. Why can't you have the authority to open them, do you not?
It's torture. It's torture. You prohibit us from using the public bathrooms in the permits, and yet require us to get bathrooms on the street, which we already have one.
You could open those bathrooms in the park tonight if you want.
Yeah, I don't know what the hours are. I don't know.
I'm sorry.
I don't know. I don't know. I answered you honestly. I don't know. I mean, I can look into it. I don't know for sure because I don't know why they're closed.
We would like a response on that, but regardless, our assembly is not about going to the bathroom. Our assembly is about free speech. It's about building community. It's about self-determination, and we will be there as long as we want to.
If you say we're unsanitary and you are locking up bathrooms, it is really the city that is promoting unsanitary conditions. And it especially affects women.
Why did you deliver to us on City of Santa Cruz letterhead photographs of shit? Isn't that a little perverted, a little disgusting, a little offensive?
Yeah. No, I mean it was just to show you what people, what the staff has found.
The discussion yesterday at the city manager's office and with Don Lane had to do with the First Amendment. I wanted to speak to the Fourth Amendment, which has to do with the permit as well, and the photographs of human, at least alleged human feces that were given to the entire General Assembly, including grandmothers, great-grandmothers, children, everyone. Since somebody was invading the privacy of the campers with a camera to take pictures of feces, I suspect there must be other photos showing the feces coming from the rectums. And we'd like to see those photos since you've already violated our values, our principles, and everything else.
Sir?
Thank you, sir.
Your time's up. That concludes oral communications. The council will now adjourn to the next regular schedule. Sorry. I want to say, sure. I think it's really important. First of all, I think it's really important for folks to know that oral communications normally is a time when we just listen. And so I know it's sometimes frustrating when you come up and make suggestions and questions and demands and don't get it. Hold on, listen. We're not going to have anybody shout out. Robert, you've been warned. The next time you speak out, I'm going to have you removed from the chamber. We listen to you. I think we expect you to listen to us. Okay. So, as I was saying, it is frustrating in this context then, because we as some of you who follow the council know, we can't take action on items, suggestions that come up during oral communications. All right, so that's ask the police to try to figure out who it was that yelled out. They're warned if you can figure out who they are, and then please, I'm going to ask you again, if we're going to have a civil dialogue that so many of you asked for, this is one of the ways that we do it. So, as I was saying, we do have a city park that is genuinely being damaged. And all right. I listened during the entire time without interrupting anyone, and it would really be appreciated if I could just complete my comments without any outbursts. There's a porta potty parked right on Ocean Street, and for some unknown reason, 2 different times that I've gone there, it's been locked. The permit is a device that the city has to make its requests to the people in the park about how to use the park in an appropriate way. More than 2 weeks ago, I was invited to come down to the steps of the courthouse to meet with a committee of Occupy Santa Cruz that was to deal with external communications so that I might facilitate some positive communication between the city and the Occupy Santa Cruz group. I was invited to come meet with a committee over at the courthouse steps to talk about how there might be a liaison. I came to that meeting, we had a good discussion, and I met with that little committee for 2 hours. I said I'd like to, see if we could create a permanent set of contacts. I gave my phone number, I gave my contact information. I said, you know, after you guys decide kind of what you like to do, come on, you know, call me back. He never called me back. And then when I called him just to check what's going on and left a message, he still did not call me back. So that's part of your challenge too, and I understand because you have a consensus process, it's very different. You've decided to be an unstructured, consensus-based group, but the reality is that makes it very difficult for me as an individual who has some role in representing the city, but that means there aren't leaders and there aren't representatives. It's very difficult for anyone to speak for the whole group, and that presents a real challenge for us. We need to know who we can talk to who actually represents the group. Because I came and met with, right in your place, with people to try and start that conversation. And I've been down to the General Assembly last night. I've been to a couple of other ones earlier on.
Well, Mr. Lang, if we look into it, can we reapproach you with it?
Absolutely. That's why I'm coming over at 6 today.
You know, a lot of our focus is being taken off of the reason we're here because we're having to put so much effort into dealing with both the city and the county separately, who are both harassing us and threatening to evict us. The city has sued us in court, and they have a requirement that we be in court with a lawyer on Tuesday and then have a decision on Wednesday. And that's for this camp down here on the benchlands in San Lorenzo Park. And then the county has sent sheriffs out almost every night to give people tickets for violating the 647E camping ban, and those could entail 6 months in prison in jail for each of these people. And now they have come and said that not only are they going to give the tickets, they've taken some of the tents away, they've forced tents to be taken down, and they now say on Monday that they are going to come and take the dome down and every other supply that's there and take it away. So we are having a special GA today, General Assembly today, to talk about that.
Occupied Chapel Hill in North Carolina. I don't know if people have heard this. Last night they took a building that's been empty for 10 years. A giant building. I heard you could put an airplane inside of it right in downtown Chapel Hill. And they held it all night. They're still holding it right now, at least at 2 p.m. East Coast side.
This is back when General Assemblies were well attended and robust. There's Commander X and indie media journalists Robert Norris and Alice DeRossi. Attorney Ed Fry. Santa Cruz Vice Mayor Don Lane.
It is a two-way street. You know, we're taking a firm position as a city. I'm supporting this. That at some point, if nothing changes, the city whose park this is will take action to do something about that, just as the General Assembly seems to be taking a position, we're not moving no matter what, and we're running this camp the way we want. Those are two very firm positions. That's why you have negotiations. So I'd encourage you not to have conditions on your negotiation. Let's talk and work these things through, each from our firmly embedded position. I do think it's valuable, as was said, that we have some additional porta potties here. It would really be good if they were right there. Yeah. You know, right, really available for people, right adjacent to the tents. The city might even contribute in some way. Likewise for a trash, you know, kind of a dumpster or a trash receptacle of some kind. So that's one piece that I think would be helpful. Another piece, even though there was the good offer of trying to thinking about rehabilitating the grass afterwards, minimize the damage and possibly minimize kind of the footprint of the space, not trying to get everybody to move wholesale, but just kind of working around that issue. Activities, some of which are questionable and illegal, that I know are a concern to you as well. Just have an understanding about how that's really going to be managed. Those are the three things: sanitation, the footprint, and the management of the space are what I bring as concerns to a discussion.
A lot of you have heard me speak before. I've facilitated some meetings, and you know that I love this process. I believe in it. I have studied it. I have thought on it. I have worried over it. I love it. I think this is the future. And there is an answer in that process. And I would like to make a concrete proposal. And I hope
is being sued. I believe Steve is being named in this lawsuit.
My general opinion is that we should appear in court, that we should fight their finding of fact this is a public nuisance. I don't believe that it is. I think it's an opportunity for us to tell the courts, tell the city, tell the community that this is a public benefit. This is not a public nuisance. I would delay any filing of appearance for myself in court so we could take the time to perhaps remove this case to federal court. We should appear in court and have our day in court and have our say, whether it's here, whether it's federal court. That's what we want to do. That empowers us.
We have a proposal to this unformed currently working group to go and represent us tomorrow at 10:30 a.m.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so that's one proposal.
The meeting tomorrow have to make any binding decision about anything.
Nothing would happen in the meeting that would be a decision. If the group that met said, we agree on these things, the folks from Occupy who were in the meeting, which come to your next General Assembly, me and the Parks Director and whoever else comes from the city, would go back to the city manager. And the city manager has some authority on his own, and he could just say, yeah, we're amenable to that. And then if both you as the larger assembly and the city manager said, okay, we've got a deal, then we've got a deal.
Does the working group going to the city council really have that much to do with the lawsuit? I think we're making two different decisions here, and I feel like we're having it presented as if we're making decisions in a binary way or a dichotomous way when we don't have to. It seems like a working group that talks to the city doesn't necessarily have anything to do with us as a GA talking about empowering our legal team to take the thing to federal court.
We are very concerned about this lawsuit. One of our demands might be that they drop the lawsuit. That might take place in the meeting.
Okay, so let's see a vote. All in favor? Consent. And then I need to see any stand aside. Just put your and any thumbs down. And how about any blocks?
The proposal passed. Now for a lesson in why camping is protected by the First Amendment.
The United States Supreme Court has said in a decision long ago that the very activity that the city is trying to stop is a valid form of protest under the First Amendment. Camping is a valid form of protest. It's just like burning your draft cards. That's not speech, but that's symbolic conduct. And sleeping is also symbolic conduct, valid form. Okay? Eventually, we want to face the fact that it's the federal government that's the real source of the problems here. The city government is just following in the footsteps and following the patterns of federal government, which is to control people's lives unduly.
That night on Occidome Plaza, which is on county property, the Sheriff's Department continued with their nightly barrage of 5 a.m. raids, which interrupted the sleep of the activist campers there.
And you guys are enforcing it to break up our political protest. We need to rest.
This was a wake-up raid. Anyone who was still in their tent got a ticket. The effect of doing this at 5 a.m. wreaks havoc on one's sleep cycle and creates physical and emotional stress. A few people were detained and several were ticketed.
I got a ticket tonight. An officer asked me to come up and said, come here. I asked him what was wrong. He said, you're lodging.
I got a ticket tonight, man. Check it out. For, what's that say? Illegal lodging? Like sitting in my tent with Susie Cream Cheese, having a latte. And
Earlier today, county deputies moved in, started issuing citations and making arrests. Here's some early morning video obtained by Action News from Occupy Santa Cruz. Eventually, 9 were cited for illegal camping. 2 were arrested for not having any identification.
Today's citations and arrests come as we move even closer to Wednesday's deadline for occupiers to clear out of San Lorenzo Park. and the court hearing on whether or not the city can make them leave, the campers indicated they have no intention of moving. Protesters like Christopher Sirrodin have no intention of pulling up stakes. He's staying even with the threat of more citations.
I'll take another ticket, yes. I believe that what we're doing is right.
This morning, campers were huddled inside this geodome, receiving legal advice. Sheriff deputies say they will continue to issue citations, and if someone doesn't have valid identification, they could end up in the county jail across the street.
The main camp was on city property and not under the authority of the sheriff's department. The camp suffered many police patrols and legal action by the city.
None of the campers here were approached by police last night or this morning, but they'll have their day in court when a judge will decide whether or not to issue a preliminary injunction. Occupy Santa Cruz and Steve Pleash are named in the injunction. The city attorney filed it Thursday, which essentially says Occupy Santa Cruz can use the park to demonstrate, but in doing so, they must obey the rules like everyone else.
I'm not really certain they're asking us to remove the tents. I think they are asking us to abate what they perceive to be a public nuisance.
We'd formed after the start of Occupy Wall Street. We had the support of the community. The city and county now threatened to remove us and began to wage a campaign of psychological torture, and we were feeling the heat. But we had a secret weapon, the vice mayor.
So we decided we're not going to allow video.
No video? I did manage to get a microphone in there.
Grant the authority. It's worded explicitly in such a way as it just is permissive rather than mandatory that the nuisance be abated. So that buys all of us more time between, even if the court did grant that, before anything happens. We should press on here with trying to come to a good understanding, a good agreement about management of the park, and it just can make the injunction be irrelevant.
Gentlemen, aren't you going to join the meeting?
Yeah, we weren't invited. We don't meet with cowards that are masked up.
I don't think anybody there is masked up.
Well, go take a look at the guy wearing the black bandana, and then tell me what you think. Come on, Phil, how are you?
Vice Mayor Don Lane met with Occupy Santa Cruz members to try and hammer out a compromise.
I've come to the General Assembly 4 times, and then I've had a couple of smaller meetings.
But I mean, is this a General Assembly meeting?
No, this is a committee, a working group.
What was the feeling today after meeting with the group?
Good. I think we're moving slowly, but we are moving forward, and I think that's good. We're just trying to take care of some of the issues that we have with the park. If we can come to an agreement, there would be a possibility of tents remaining. I think that's the goal, is to make it so that the use of the park is healthy, but also allows for free speech activities. The city isn't obligated to do any enforcement action just because of the injunction. So if we're making good progress, I think there's a real chance we could come to an agreement. That the city, has a certain piece of land that we're dealing with, which is this park, and then the county has the courthouse steps, and they have a different regime for how they enforce their law. We communicate, but neither of us can tell the other what to do. I think that's our best option. Yeah. So it's kind of more by example. Have you guys just gone to the Board of Supervisors? John Leopold is the county supervisor who I'd recommend.
The top police brass visited the camp.
We're all responsible for it, including you.
Deputy Chief Steve Clark.
Are you all responsible for this too? All of this?
I mean, we all are. Yeah, you too. Because you choose to address the issue of houselessness with citations and with legal force rather than actually providing place to be.
And we're the ones that legislated that law?
You're the ones enforcing those laws.
Police Chief Kevin Vogel.
We can make a viable place for people to live and be safe. We need your help.
Been done up to this point, then?
Because the city is tying our hands, the police is tying our hands.
How?
We don't have the money, we don't have the resources. Oh yeah, you give people citations and make their lives a lot harder. You protect white people.
I'm just trying to.
Oh, you're not reasonable.
I know that we need to be out here.
Okay.
What is your title? Why are you here?
Deputy Chief of Administration.
Deputy Chief of
Homeless people had been able to camp and chill out without fear of arrest.
You got a couple days or what?
Probably not that long.
Not even that long, huh?
Where are they supposed to go? Where are we all?
While the camp existed, reports of homeless people sleeping around town declined. Crime along the river levee saw a dramatic decline, and people began to rebuild their lives.
Yeah, where are they supposed to go? Where are we?
We're not allowed on the levee, and we're not allowed in the woods.
Can we get medical?
We're not allowed on the streets, and we're not allowed downtown. Where are we supposed to go? Is it true that they just closed down half of the HP? Now we're not going to be able to get any medical assistance either? What's that for your charge?
They're providing a place other than the jail. They're saying, okay, you can't be on the street. No, I think these people need help. And I don't think they need police.
News cameras were standing at the ready.
I was down here last week for a tour. Actually, I was down here twice. And I think it's important for me as the police chief to come down and see how things are progressing out here.
How are they progressing? Has it changed since the last time you were down there? And Police Chief Kevin Vogel isn't happy.
Actually appears a little cleaner to me today in terms of the, I don't smell the urine or the other things down here like I smelled last week, but they have a lot of work to do down here.
Now, have you heard anything about any sort of a ringworm outbreak out here too? Is there a ringworm warning that's gone out to your officers?
I've heard rumor. I don't have any basis in fact for that, but I have heard a rumor that there's a ringworm outbreak, but nothing to substantiate that.
You haven't seen anything like that?
I have not.
Camp. Police telling me today they're concerned about a possible ringworm outbreak. I checked with the County Health Services Agency and they were unable to confirm.
Let's hear that again.
Out here too, is there a ringworm warning that's gone out to your officers?
Heard rumor. I don't have any basis in fact for that.
That was the first we'd heard of ringworm.
Police telling me today they're concerned about a possible ringworm outbreak.
We begin to ask the question, how was the news created and why?
Meantime, the real focus today, health concerns at the campsite.
Well, in addition to a possible ringworm outbreak, there are problems with human waste and tents taking a toll on the park's grass. And police asked environmental health to tour the campsite and list the problems. Santa Cruz County environmental health inspectors, along with police, fire, inspect the occupied Santa Cruz encampment. Santa Cruz police say there are reports of scabies and ringworm outbreaks.
These are all things that we asked County Health to come out and take a look at and assess the situation.
Inspectors will report back to the police department later. Those who are camping here say they're doing the best they can and defend the makeshift camp and its purpose.
We don't want people to get sick. We do actually want things to be clean, and we're doing the best we can. And the critical thinking part is that that's not perfect.
After a visit by county health officers, no tests for scabies or ringworm were ordered or conducted. But the news didn't report this most important part of the story. So where did those reports of disease outbreaks come from? They came from Steve Clark himself. This tactic was used at occupations all over the country as a pretext for attacking and shutting down camps.
We're really starting to get into the area now where they're impacting safety and they're impacting health and sanitation.
The little internet clip is little is good. Rappers claiming they sick, I hear niggas for good. A couple of y'all ain't took a field trip to the hood. Like me, I'm Fresh Prince, I'm Will Smith to the hood, baby. Ain't saying names, but we not the same. All that money in the bank will change the bet that you
It's a fantastic scene. I'm really happy with the good behavior of everybody and how well they're getting along, keeping the place clean. There's a lot of work to do, and everybody pitches in. It's pretty amazing how involved everybody's getting and how well they work together.
The news cameras were a familiar sight as occupiers stayed busy keeping a large camp and a 24-hour activist hub running. News cameras peered in.
I'm a 12-time election poll worker and someone who's worked for safe and fair elections in our electoral system that we have currently. And I'm a real firm believer in democracy is not a spectator sport. I'm clean freak and basic sanitation, helping the Treasury set up accounting and working with the process committee and helping our meetings go more smoothly and be more representational, more functional for the General Assembly. Those are different roles I've taken. And camp hugger. The last 24, 48 hours have taken its toll a little on my own psyche, if you will. The pressure between what's happening with the daily raids and the injunction and what seems to be this rapid escalating police and governmental pressure at the same time while we're really discovering how to work effectively as a community and have all our voices be heard and have our community stay safe and sane. It's been difficult for me personally the last couple of days, but I'm still here, and I'm here a lot because of the people that I'm working with, because this is my community, and I know that they support me.
The Sheriff's Department routinely raided the camp before dawn. Deputies carried off protest signs, chairs, and items critical to the infrastructure of the camp. It is difficult to be centered and peaceful when being awoken by officers before dawn. Officers such as Lieutenant Pursley understood this and seemed to goad the activists to respond. The officers refused to speak with anyone. They slowly ascended the stairs, waiting for some physical attack. They finally entered the glass doors of the courthouse, which hadn't been used even once in the 2 months of the occupation. They seemed to be taunting the activists through the window. Lieutenant Pursley even seemed to stick his tongue out at me.
You want us to break the window, we're not going to do it. You deserve it, though.
Surveying the area after the deputies retreated behind glass, it was clear that they had carted off all of the signs and lots of personal belongings.
Close to a dozen sheriffs came into our occupation on the courthouse steps in pretty swift order, and without saying anything started taking down a couple of our tents, and then they dragged off one of our easy ups.
Grabbing sleeping bags, grabbing people's personal property, backpacks, my wallet, clothing, and some of my school stuff, actually. They pretty much didn't answer any questions regarding lodging or any of our questions regarding what they're doing. Started loading it all up into a truck that pulled up, and pretty much were gone as quick as they came.
And I was trying to express my concern that it's about to start raining soon. They didn't seem to be too concerned about that at all. Those doors on that side of the courthouse steps, for the first time in God knows how long, and left without saying anything.
A Fox News reporter was waiting inside at 5:30 a.m. He refused to interview the activists. The lieutenant didn't mention taking personal property or taunting the occupiers. Another morning, another sheriff's raid.
It is a completely unenforceable law. You're not a citizen right now. You're a public servant, right?
These pre-dawn raids are designed to take their toll on the emotional states of the Occupy activists, many of whom must get up and work and go to school. Deputies arrived with twice as many officers as the previous morning, flooding the plaza, a frightening escalation. This part of Occupy Santa Cruz was on county property and wasn't under the city's anti-camping ordinance, which makes the act of sleeping outside of a building illegal. But the county was using an ancient California Civil War era law that forbids lodging. They had yet to define lodging, and it was different from day to day. The occupiers asserted their right to sleep. The deputies scoured over books of ordinances as they searched for laws to enforce against the activists. Deputies began to break down every tent in the upper plaza, and the activists were afraid to claim their tents for fear of being cited with a law that could land them in jail for 6 months.
That's a private domicile you're destroying. You best be leaving
What are the
alone.
elements of lodging?
If you overcome your violence on food and lodging here, this has all day.
We're not living here for the sake of it. We're not just lying here.
Why don't you go home and bone up a little bit and then come back?
Live within the state where Negroes are mulattoes. They lifted language from that. We make this law.
There aren't any tents set up on Front Street. The sheriff cleared out county property this weekend. But at San Lorenzo Park, the city side of the demonstration, there are still about 70 tents.
For the duration of the camp, there was always someone staffing the info table.
Well, there are 3 ways that people can involve themselves. The first is the simplest, and that's just by showing up, because the goal is to concentrate people in an area so that it's very noticeable. And of course, you know, these are people often homeless or facing economic problems. You see poverty on display. It's an unsettling thing. And people should exercise their critical thinking, you know, when they observe things associated with poverty. All that's drawn together, and people have to notice it, and they're challenged to make sense of it and how to fix it. The second way is that if you show up to these Occupy movements, you can get involved. You're guaranteed to have things to do because there are working groups that you can join, present their results at assemblies, and they come up with direct action plans, which are the third thing. There's in my opinion, an unavoidable element of confrontation in any of this. If it were to have any impact at all and actually do something to change the world, there's inevitably going to be an element of confrontation with authority, state authority specifically, and police. The third aspect, and the one that I kind of signed on for last night actually, is protecting infrastructure from police attacks. And in my specific case, that meant deciding that I'd take direct political action for the first time in my life, and I'd actually attach a U-lock to my neck and join it to a bar of our buckyball dome, because I believe that strongly that our First Amendment rights are being trampled on, and I believe that strongly that the ethical repercussions of what this movement has to offer the earth are immeasurably more important than the issues that the city wants to draw attention to, or that a lot of press outlets want to draw attention to. Those are immeasurably teenier, and they can all be worked on. So any point of view that says that hygiene, quarrels, things like that are unfixable or make the movement look bad is just propaganda. Direct action is something I hadn't taken part in before, and it made me a little bit nervous, the idea of having a U bar around my neck, but it's something I'm willing to do because I just believe in this that much. I've been on the fence about it. I thought, maybe it caused me a lot of anxiety, but then I thought, all the people that I believe in, my true heroes, they all would have done it. They're all people that knew how to stand up for something, and they didn't just support the people that stood up for something, they were the actual people that did it. So that's what I just had told myself, and I kind of kicked my own butt and just said, you know what, that's who you are. In the worst case, I get hurt or something, it's still, it would be like one of the most important moments of my life. In my opinion, this is just an unstoppable movement. There can be short-term conflicts within camps. There can be all sorts of police brutality and things like that are issues. There are a number of issues, but I think those are not going to stop the movement, however unpleasant they can be. I think that there's been a lot of police activity lately, which is deliberately calculated to make people lose sleep and to disorient them psychologically and cause division. And I think that it's succeeded to an extent, but that's about the best weapon that police have. Ultimately, they don't have a better long-term plan that I could even think of. I don't think the smartest person on earth could really think of what the police can do better when they run out of funds for arresting people peacefully protesting. And now I'm probably either today or tomorrow I'll be part of a direct action to try to save the dome.
Following a week of early morning raids, the occupiers expected Sheriff's Department to come and try to destroy their dome. Many had committed to protecting it. It was brave and audacious building a large metal frame dome at the courthouse. It's indicative of the power of the Occupy movement at that point and how much community support there was at the time, that the Sheriff's Department was powerless to remove it. But word had gone out that they were coming for it. You can see one of the many U-locks in this shot. The dome had anchored the occupation in plain view of thousands of honking motorists a day. It housed a library, a communications hub, and was the focal point of the activists' work. They had begun to identify with it as much as they did the camp in the park around the corner. It had kept them warm during the bitter cold nights and dry when it rained, a source of constantly flowing coffee-fueled all-night conversations about the revolution. It was a point of their pride.
You gotta understand it, Wyman don't work. I was trying to tell you this. No, I got you. And we made a plan. We actually had a special General Assembly just to make a plan for the dome.
To change it up to it?
No comment, yeah. That was off the record in the background. But yes, it will be exciting if they do try to take this apart. Yeah, it'll be worth you being here. And I'll call you, even if I'm attached to it, I'll call you. We have no historical precedent for where we are right now. This is unlike any movement, at least in my lifetime. There is no analog to it. So we're in uncharted waters, and so I guess the only thing that I have to judge on as far as how we're doing is the police suppression, and that's been pretty bad. I'd have to say that we're in a very, very tense moment. We're in a moment in history where, as I like to put it, we're involved in the largest game of chicken in history. Who's going to blink first? Occupy or the U.S. government? Occupy or Santa Cruz County? Occupy or the city government? So it's who's going to blink first. There was a honeymoon period when we first occupied where we got to march around a lot, we got to do a lot of activism, we got to do a lot of networking, and all that stuff is still good. I mean, it was good work. It was a good start to what we wanted to do with that public space. But then they attacked us, and it became all about us holding that public space. And it's obviously, there's a test for the movement. Do we get past this? Do we survive this? And it's also a test for the government, because the alternative might be that they don't survive this. So it's a head-on collision. It's a weird thing, and it's just never been like this.
Around the corner from the dome, the camp in the park was facing the end of a permit they'd never asked for, and were bracing for a raid by the police department.
It's coming to shove, and it's coming fucking soon. Tomorrow, the next day. I've been very moved. Listen, way more than I do. You have more experience with this, but if you give them an inch, they're gonna take a fucking mile. If you back up and move, and you go back to the levee or wherever it is that you're staying before, they're just gonna come back and tell you to move from that place again, and they're gonna keep doing it again and again and again and again and again, and they're never gonna fucking stop. Together, we are strong. Together, we have a voice. And we can make that voice fucking heard. That's right. By standing together. I would like to encourage folks to consolidate tents closer together. Get closer to this teepee as close as possible. This area right here is a wide open spot for the police to walk in and divide the camp. It's going to make it easy to take this part down and then focus on this part. If it's not divided like this, it makes it a lot harder on them. We are intimidating. We are intimidating these motherfuckers. And if we are all together, we're a lot more intimidating. I would also like to suggest, but I want you to talk about it amongst each other, to put all of the belongings inside the teepee and then surround the teepee. And like what Gary was saying, use non-violent disobedience, go limp, don't talk to them, just stand and let them try to figure it out. They're gonna be confused, they're gonna be scared, they might get violent, they might arrest you. This is a risk that you will take.
This camp had lasted nearly 2 months and was the first steady home more than 100 folks had had in a long time. The positive effects were evident on a community normally hiding in the woods or along the river or downtown trying to evade a police roust and ticketing. Despite various problems, there was a feeling of community and safety. It had become home.
Meanwhile, a lot of these protesters say they're going to be up all night. They're expecting an early morning raid sometime between midnight and 5 in the morning. Dan?
Those were tense nights at the Dome and in the camp, as everyone expected separate raids from both SCPD and the Sheriff's Department. Folks suffered through fitful sleeps, waking at every noise. Several activists had committed to defend the Dome, and others were going to support them. It seemed like an eternal moment, and then something did stir. A man experienced a mysterious yet painful groin injury, and just before dawn on the other side of the county building.
What's your name? My name is Austin. Well, I caught you guys doing vehicle tampering in my
police
car.
brutality,
So I'm
bro.
detaining you. Writing down license plate number.
The activists were wound up with anticipation awaiting a sheriff's raid that never came. During an early morning patrol, activists had been too close to a deputy's car and he attacked them. They were arrested and charged with vehicle tampering.
And get the light out of my face.
He hit the camp for no reason. He just boom, freaking puts him up against the car and hits him with his shoulder in the head. Upside the head.
The next morning, officers put hoods over the meters as county workers said they were making room for an impending raid.
Earlier, 2 Occupy Santa Cruz members were arrested for reportedly tampering with sheriff deputies' personal cars and trying to obtain personal information. Occupy Santa Cruz says the pair were simply keeping an eye out for potential police action against the camp.
The officer took his arm like this and hit the kid upside the head.
We'll do a thorough investigation not only from a criminal aspect, but from our office doing an administrative investigation as well.
And late this afternoon, police placed no parking hoods over parking meters along Water Street where Occupy Santa Cruz has set up. It's a move to prevent people from sleeping in their cars on the...
But no investigation was ever done, and officers refused to take statements from those present. The next night had a much different vibe, despite fears of a raid.
I said, yeah, we got the rhythm, we got the geek clear. I had a Twitter that there's another media than here, and I tell you, I could predict. Some would say that means that a raid is imminent. I'm not sure, like a lyrical Impedia. Gotta hit it down, cause they like to tell the media when they come in just a little bit. Yo, I'm letting up, they arrive like 20 minutes early just to set up, but I'm not sure if it's really set up. All I'm saying, you're right, now the music never lets up. And I'm like, yeah, you can't stop me, I guess it's the right time to go grab some coffee real quick. Jet back, just like no jet lag. Got to hit it, yeah, sometimes my pants sack. Doesn't mean I think I'm better than anyone, but it doesn't mean I'll bow down to the barrel of the gun. We got to how to hit it, cause you know the pieces rest in me. I flip it with the soul because you know I'm chasing destiny. Yeah, I could tell you cause you know I love the vibe. It's cold as fuck, but I feel so alive. So I fuck it with the breath from my lung, and we hit like Liberty Bell. Always fucking wrong, freedom song still sung like I take with this. We are just a kick and trying to chase a little bit of bliss of the freedom that we're chasing. It's the freedom, there ain't a race into the freedom that we're chasing. It's the freedom that they ain't erasing, like that freedom that we're all chasing. It's the freedom that they ain't erasing. Said the freedom that we're all chasing. It's a freedom song that they ain't erasing. No, they ain't erasing. Said another. Hey, how about that? U.S. mail supports.
You're watching Occuvision, 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 TV for the 99%.
It's a freedom that we fight. Oh, it's a freedom that we chase. It's a freedom that we fight. Oh, it's a freedom that we chase. It's a freedom.
The street party went deep into the morning as 3 TV trucks waited. It was a revelation because anywhere else in the city, so much noise would have surely invited a neighbor complaint. But the only neighbor here was the jail across the street. Neither the dome nor the camp were raided that week, but officers were watching from down the street. They seemed a little skittish. It was a glorious night of drumming, singing, and dancing together. They even painted each other's faces with tribal designs. The occupiers never backed down or budged under the threat of removal by the sheriff's department. They had called law enforcement's bluff, and they had a reason to party, defiantly and jubilantly. But in the bright light of morning, it looked like hell to those officials surveying the area. And how would the media portray this?
Day 43 of Occupy Santa Cruz. Today, a noon deadline came and went. without Santa Cruz police evicting protesters from San Lorenzo Park. But the pressure is building between demonstrators and area law enforcement, clearly.
There are a lot of different things at work here today. First, the deadline for complying with the city permit passed without any police action, and the city has no plans to extend it, while Occupy Santa Cruz says it's cleaning up its act. County maintenance workers tell me they're seeing the same unsanitary conditions, and it's impossible to not see all the graffiti and other vandalism that's going on at the county courthouse. Occupy Santa Cruz campers expected a police sweep, but police didn't evict any of the campers after a city deadline struck at noon. Police have no intention of issuing another permit, but will monitor conditions and note violations.
The city's permit process was simply a way to ask and request that they exercise some responsibility around their rights. I don't believe the demands were excessive or they were unreasonable. It was just simply some basic health and some basic respect.
Occupy Santa Cruz members say they're following through with those requests, adding 2 more toilets, a place to dump trash, but health concerns, they believe, are exaggerated.
A lot of it is exaggerated, and I think it's because they only want to show the one side, which is the negative side.
Some county employees who support the Occupy movement met with their union reps today to voice concern about Occupy Santa Cruz and its encampment.
These camps are filthy. The people come, they pee all over, they defecate. It no longer represents me. I don't feel that I can be part of this because it's being a lot of drugs, a lot of violation of laws, harassment.
Occupy Santa Cruz has taken their battle to court. They want a federal judge to hear their right to demonstrate by sleeping in public places, similar to the Peace Camp 2010 protest.
It's not a homeless sleep out. It's an occupation in alliance with the occupation movements all around the world to speak out against the dysfunction in the political economy.
We simply disagree on that. The United States Supreme Court has ruled squarely on that issue. That camping is not within the ambit of First Amendment rights.
Occupy Santa Cruz filed a notice of removal in federal court yesterday to try to move the Santa Cruz City Attorney's nuisance lawsuit out of Superior Court. And City Attorney John Barasoni plans to file a motion to argue against moving the case to federal court.
Then there's the vandalism that Phil mentioned. Sometime last night, somebody vandalized the courthouse, covering the front of it with various graffiti messages.
Mauro Garcia, who was one of the people who came, he's the park superintendent. If whoever is arranging the porta potties could get in touch with him so he could help just facilitate where the best placement is. His name is Mauro, M-A-U-R-O.
Regarding the sanitation issues, we also have arranged for renting our own dumpster.
Just talk to Mauro, it's the same deal.
Is there any way that we can get a county person to come and talk to us the way that you have?
I suggested to a couple of people, either John Leopold or Neil Coonerty, Mark Stone, all of them. Really, the way you're going to get it is when you have that sort of direct, like looking at one person in the eye and saying, will you come meet with us? My colleagues and I on the city council are trying to do some stuff to bring some of the political issues raised by the occupation, Occupy Wall Street, Occupy Santa Cruz. We're trying to bring some of those issues perhaps to the city council agenda. So it is having that impact.
Okay, so since they don't allow us as media to have any audio or really be a part of these discussions, they just want to have a dialogue between you and them. What are those issues that they're trying to convey to you and make progress? I mean, is it still unclear or?
I would have to say it is unclear, and generally my meetings have been about a lot of these logistical issues, and we haven't really gotten to the substantive political issues. We might put a resolution on the city council agenda, making a statement about some of these issues. And then also there's some city policies we might adopt around local banking. We shouldn't be supporting big banks is pretty clear as an Occupy issue, and we're sort of responding to that.
The city of Santa Cruz did move its money to local banks. Union workers, including teachers, joined Occupy Santa Cruz by demonstrating on a nearby bridge to protest the lack of benefits for city workers. Some of the Occupy activists began to block traffic with a large banner as they yelled for the union members to flood the street. This attempt failed, highlighting a basic difference of tactics.
Sorry about that. I shouldn't have been there. I told him to get out of the street. I appreciate it. You guys.
The union members weren't interested in civil disobedience. Union members joined Occupy Santa Cruz for a rally at the courthouse.
And they don't care about you. They don't like you. They don't want you. They don't love you, and they don't want you anywhere near them at all. They certainly don't want you here. I'm fed up.
All right, our next speaker, Noah, from the Occupy Camping, was going to share a few words.
All right, thank you all for being out here tonight. You know, we've had some cold, wet nights lately, and it's just really reassuring and raises our spirits here at Occupy Santa Cruz to see all of you. We are posted up out there on the courthouse steps 24 hours a day, going on 2 months now. I know that I don't want to move until we achieve some real change. You know, past week, we've been really bogged down with the oppression of the state, the police and the sheriffs coming and trying to sweep us out of there. No, we're not going to stand for that, but we also can't let that oppression stop us from doing our daily organizing, our whole purpose for being out there. Our purpose is to reach out not to the politicians, not to the system, not to the legislature, it's to reach out to the people of this country. So please, come and join us. Be with us. What kind of pie?
So I propose that we purchase a MiFi Wi-Fi hotspot.
I currently have over 100 hours of YouTube video from this Occupy, which I would love to upload. If we had Wi-Fi here, if we had an internet connection here, our media footprint would probably quadruple. The message that's getting out from the other Occupies is saving them.
The city is actually quite happy with our negotiations, our discussions with them, and they're feeling like we're moving along. We brought in the extra porta potties. Now we're talking about bringing in the dumpster. It doesn't feel to them like there would be any need for any significant police action or anything, you know, any kind of eviction. So that's really good news. Now again, that's on the city property, not up here. That's a different issue.
You may not sleep. What? We can breathe, we can blink our eyes, we can defecate when we need to, but we can't sleep? That's outrageous.
The lawsuit that we have just answered, that was brought in this Superior Court, has now been removed to the federal court in San Jose. Woo. Judges in this courthouse, right here, have a real allergy toward the Constitution.
They're allergic.
They don't want to look at it, they don't want to think about it, they don't want to talk about it, they want to just sweep it under the rug.
Sweep it under the rug?
Shoving it under a rug.
Shove it under the rug.
And that's what is the problem all across this country. Local judges sweeping things under the rug, and the right things not getting decided by the highest courts.
The right to sleep is absolutely crucial to your right to life.
Under the First Amendment, you have the right to stay here and protest. You need the right to camp on the doorstep of government, and that's what we're doing.
Personal expression and different lifestyle choices are revealed the more time folks camp together on the doorsteps of government. Here, emergency services are called in for a fellow who was inebriated and catching hypothermia because of his wet clothes on a very cold night. Ambulance visits were becoming almost a nightly routine. Regardless of the various appetites of some of the campers, the camp was hanging tough. A week after facing down the police department's bluff, many remained. But there were issues to be addressed.
They harass us during the day. The system did that. The system has put you where you are. Living in squalor. Fucked up all the time. Woo. I don't believe you actually want to live this way.
All right, now you can get the fuck out of here.
It could be better. It could be safe. We could take care of each other.
Trying to tell people to out of the dirt and have a better life.
There's a kitchen up front that has completely been ransacked. There's nothing left. There's no pots. There's no pans. Nobody there to cook. Why not? There's so many people around. There's trash all over the place. Why?
Around the corner at Occidental Plaza, the party continued. The fear of sheriff raids had subsided, and Occupy Santa Cruz got back to the business of hosting fun events and attracting the larger community, and to celebrate the success of remaining a 24/7 occupation. And why not turn up the volume and dance? The waters were disturbed. Though the threat of cop raids had ended, the attacks on the occupation were now mostly self-inflicted. Living across the street from a jail with daily inmate releases was a problem.
There's an ongoing atmosphere in the camp, and I believe it's probably driven mainly by substances. But there were some acts of violence late at night. There was some physical assaults. We've had a number of thefts. People are going into people's tents.
2 nights in a row, the same individual. Once brandished a knife, and last night was not only tearing stuff up in that octagon and was making me feel unsafe, but was tearing up the medical tent.
And what I'm hoping is that there's someone here who can actually speak a little bit about the ways we've tried to deal with this.
Sure, and I'm aware of some of the violence that has happened recently, and it very much concerns me. I'm also concerned about the police violence.
We had a kitchen crew, and we had about 15 security people. Every one of them's gone now. A lot of it has been because of the threats from the police that have consumed our minds with raids from both the police department and the sheriff's department. We got to get our drive back. What I'm wondering is, how do we do that?
They just occupied a building 2 days ago successfully, and it's looking really cool. And yeah, there's a lot of empty banks around here. I signed up.
Yeah, 99% and there are many voices.
I found myself in communication, speaking to the public, helping out with the music and art. You know, being a person that can be able to listen to, you know, and just be able to be there as, like, you know, someone who needs to talk to at night. And I give them the knowledge, and I also give them conversation too, dialogue. I sit here and wonder, not by the wind of time, but by the people that go through so much to have a place to sleep at night. Taking these tickets and citations by these sheriffs and police officers just to live in this idea plantation. I don't script words, I'm freestyling live. To every single kid that is going through tribes, suffering with their mother and father that are not there, and learning how to take it itself and deal with the wealth. I'm learning how to keep myself real. When I see so much negative that people feel inside of their soul, that they need to wake up and be real with themselves. Take time to realize what this movement is. People losing their homes and losing their jobs. Some are saying getting jobs, but where are the jobs, my friend? They're not here. They're probably in third world countries where children are losing every single thing they have so we can live here. This is now. Now is the time for us to be waking up. Some of them have been giving up and they've been fighting. Some of them have been coming home from war and asking for change. But you had to be a part of the change. I was not sitting there asking for change on a street corner because I know I had to be a part of it. I was learning that all these statistics were controlling us. They were making us slaves for the same thing. I have to say, you know, this has been a fight of my life, but it's been working me out, you know, mentally, physically, you know, emotionally, everything. But it's been making me, you know, understand life more, understand the values and the cores of things and what you have to go through. But as a writer and a poet, oh man, it's been a great experience because my creativity has exploded more, you know, because I'm around the people. And I think that's a beautiful thing because I've always been around the people, but just more of this has been like a cleansing for me.
Finally, a sunny day. Rain had turned the park into a mud pit, and muddy personal belongings had piled up even despite weekly dump runs. Occupy Santa Cruz had begun to vilify Phil Gomez because of the content of his newscasts. His cameraman peered in. Don Lane seemed to remain positive as he continued to meet with the occupiers.
If a dumpster just showed up there and you know, what do you think would happen?
Manna from heaven.
They're saying we're going to stick a dumpster there because there's a lot of trash, you know, occurring there, and we should just make sure it gets.
Well, now dumpster arriving is one thing. Dumpster service is something else.
Oh no, it would, I mean, if it arrives, the city would come and be part of the park.
As long as it's a no strings attached thing, like there's no hidden clause on it that if you use it, we're gonna get in trouble.
No, that's my point about there couldn't be any strings because you didn't ask for it.
Okay.
That was my point. So I'm not saying that can happen, but I'm gonna just talk to the parks folks and say, hey,
isn't like grass really insignificant for the types of changes that we're trying to make? And couldn't the city just take it upon themselves and just kind of forget about it in a sense, providing healthcare to all people, providing free education to people? Where grass is to a lot of us is really insignificant. Maybe the city is willing to make that sacrifice.
Don Lane made an offer to get a dumpster for the camp while an activist asks him to forget one of his main criteria for discussion. Quality of the grass in the park was unimportant to the occupiers, but a dumpster would be very helpful. One can see an easy compromise here. Occupy activists sometimes felt like they had all of the cards, and to a certain extent they did, but things were beginning to close in, and Phil Gomez was just about to drop a bomb.
Meantime, Santa Cruz County officials have released a list of dozens and dozens of complaints about the Occupy Santa Cruz camp in San Lorenzo Park. The county also claims human waste has piled up at the Veterans Hall on Front Street ever since the camp opened.
The county hasn't directly blamed occupied Santa Cruz campers about the 200 pounds of human waste removed from the Veterans Hall, but they included it in a news release about the camp and say it's a pretty big coincidence. Occupiers say they have nothing to do with it. 200 pounds of human waste was discovered around the empty Veterans Hall. The county had a Gilroy company remove and treat the site.
They, cleaned up all the material and the toilet paper and stuff that was down in there and removed all of that material.
The county implies the poopy problem started when the Occupy tents went up. Occupy Santa Cruz says it isn't them.
I wondered why anyone would travel a quarter mile to the Vets Hall to relieve themselves. The Vets Hall is completely surrounded by a fence. First, one must climb the fence and then jump 15 feet down into the back pit area. The other outside areas are fully exposed and paved, unlikely places to drop a deuce. Chain link fences surround the remaining sides of the building, topped by dangerous barbed wire. 200 pounds of human waste were allegedly found here, somewhere. The report of 200 pounds of shit found here stings. Would county administrators lie so readily? Would the news report it without fact-checking? Who runs this news station anyway?
This is a KSBW editorial.
As the Occupy Wall Street movement enters its third month, it might be easy to believe that the movement is gaining strength across the country, but events are unfolding that we believe are diluting the message and making it harder for many to take it seriously. And seeing myriad demonstrations continue with no end in sight just makes it easy to dismiss the Occupy movement as little more than background noise from what we call the cave people, citizens against virtually everything. Now it's time to clean up the mess, human waste, garbage, and the overall environmental impact before it becomes a true health hazard. Memo to Occupy Santa Cruz. City leaders have shown you patience and respect. We here at KSBW have covered your protests, your grievances, and your antics in a fair and even-handed manner.
At Occupy Santa Cruz, we have 3 porta potties available on site, and we've had 2 extra porta potties for about a week to take care of human waste.
Now, who empties those? We have pictures of them actually being emptied.
I'm not sure who they're contracted with, to be honest, but it's one of the local, companies that comes twice a week to clean them.
But that's my point. So how often do you have these things?
My understanding, they're being cleaned twice a week. 2 times a week, we have 3 porta potties.
They recently added 2 more porta potties, bringing the total number to 3. Waste is removed at least twice a week. The county also released almost 100 complaints from county employees, a long list that includes illegal and disruptive behavior. The county has added 2 security guards, more video cameras, and the doors to the government center will now be locked after 5 o'clock. Why did you decide to remove all the chalk?
I think the rain washes away the chalk.
Occupied has made recent improvements at the camp. Rain has washed away most of the chalk that covered the courthouse or has been removed by occupiers.
It happens on a daily basis, at least once or twice a day, where 5 to 10 people might pull out items, sweep floors, get trash picked up. When we're out here, we're practicing our freedom of assembly and right to express ourselves. The houseless are really the front lines of this movement. A lot of people who are victims of the economic injustice that has been going on for the last several decades.
Occupy Santa Cruz, meantime, is calling for a white it out this Black Friday. They are asking consumers to boycott shopping.
Santa Cruz County has released 2.5 pages of incidents here at the camp. That's 93 complaints to county officials regarding feces and human waste.
Easy on the feces. Get away from the word feces.
Santa Cruz County has released 2.5 pages of incidents involving Occupy Santa Cruz. Everything from people urinating to security issues out here at the camp. But the camp organizers or people who are involved with Occupy Santa Cruz, they've been doing everything they can to install restrooms and even places where people can store their garbage. But, oh man, that was beautiful too. That's 93 incidents, everything from prostitution to people urinating out here at the camp. Hearing is set for January 3rd, but the city is hoping the federal court will hear it earlier rather than later. I'll have more on this story coming up at 5 and 6.
What was that, dude, at the end?
Everything from illegal dumping to public urination out here at the park by answering in federal court. Public urination to prostitution happening out here. But the camp says that they've added porta potties and they've also added a place where people can stash their garbage. What's wrong? You keep shaking your head. People urinating out in the open here to prostitution to lack of restroom facilities. Santa Cruz County has released 2.5 pages, some 93 incidents involving Occupy Santa Cruz. They include the lack of restroom facilities. The federal court has issued a hearing date for Occupy Santa Cruz in the city of Santa Cruz for January 3rd. I'll have more on this story coming up on Action News at 5 and 6.
You didn't say why they issued this.
I know. I'm afraid that I'll run out of time.
arrested a man for using heroin at the Occupy Santa Cruz encampment. Demonstrators are taking steps to clean up their act. Central Coast News reporter Caitlin Sykes found out how they plan to combat their negative image in the community.
We're trying to come together to work it out as a team, as a people, you know, because we want all people to come out here and feel safe. And that's why we've been stepping up our communication and our security detail a little bit more carefully so we don't have no more conflicts like this. Or when we have them, we're able to come together effectively.
Wednesday night, Santa Cruz police responded to a report of a heroin overdose at the camp. When they arrived, the suspect was alive, but they did make an arrest for being under the influence of heroin, not the image the movement wants to portray.
I think what I'm struggling with is just the competing forces that are present here in the camp. We've got hunger, we've got food, we've got sanitation issues, very big social issues around alcoholism and addiction that leak into the space that we're occupying, and security issues. So it's manifold. Overall, I think it's in Santa Cruz actually been going pretty smoothly so far. I kept quiet for quite a few weeks, but I initially started cooking here in the camp kitchen, and I noticed an enormous number of generally younger people for whom life, right now is a struggle, and they're hungry. So I stepped into that role. In General Assembly meetings every day, we were bringing up a number of, identified issues, and so I felt compelled to speak out on camp issues, and I just wanted to bring, I just felt like I wanted to bring a voice to the turmoil. I'm homeless now, and I've been homeless before, so I can identify with the groups of people that are assembled in the streets. In the last week, we've seen Occupy Oakland, Occupy Wall Street's encampments basically wiped out. A strategy needs to be developed to allow the Occupy groups themselves to be able to emerge from however they're housing themselves, if it's not an encampment, and continue the very important work that the General Assemblies are articulating. Finding a more permanent location with facilities for cooking and sanitation and sanctuary. I think in Hawaii, on the Big Island, there's a place called Sanctuary.
Today we have pasta alla marinara with pecorino romano. It's going to be good. I'm in favor of the occupiers because what we have is we have corporations that instead of investing in jobs are investing in lobbyists to get tax breaks so they can move their money offshore, and middle-class America is getting screwed. So I'm out here to do my part.
The list of complaints, including 200 pounds of shit at the Vets Hall, had come from county administrators. It was time to meet our accusers. Dinah Phillips, often seen deriding the occupation. Lieutenant Wilson represents the deputies that raided the camp.
So Dinah, this is some folks that are self-identifying as Occupy Santa Cruz.
200 pounds of poop that were found over near the Veterans Hall.
I don't know who found it, and I'm not sure who reported it. I don't know that anyone has associated. I've never drawn a direct line on that.
The county also claims human waste has piled up at the Veterans Hall on Front Street ever since the camp opened.
They included it in a news release about the camp and say it's a pretty big coincidence. Occupiers say they have nothing to do with it.
Because there is a temporal connection. We have not said that there's a direct line. The one thing we don't know is how much it weighed. And, we were sort of thinking, I wonder what that volume would be.
200 pounds of human waste was discovered around the empty Veterans Hall. The 200 pounds of human waste.
In the media, it portrays it as connected to Occupy Santa Cruz.
I don't know who did it. You guys don't know who did it.
And you're associating it in the media with Occupy because of a temporal connection. That's what we should associate.
I haven't associated
Occupy Santa Cruz.
The county implies the poopy problem started when the Occupy tents went up.
But here's what I'm wondering. So I'm wondering if this is going to be like a question and answer session about feces. Or really, if you'd like to know a little bit more, what I was hoping is to talk about, we've got like 100 people here. There's 10 of you here. And you're here for some reasons, right? And my guess is you want to stay here and continue to educate the public, advance your message, and do something productive. I don't know if we're going to get there talking about food. I think, we might have a productive dialogue when we talk about, for instance, I saw some things when I walked by today at noon. I noticed when I walked by, I looked up to the courthouse steps, that there was a sign that said Occupy Santa Cruz against the doors. Now things are tied to it. Now those are emergency exits. I also saw some food being served on the sidewalk. Now, some people might think it's disruptive when they can't use a public sidewalk, because on the sidewalk is something that's so large, it takes up a good deal of the sidewalk. And I wasn't able to use the public sidewalk.
These things that you're mentioning are small items. We have some concerns that are pretty big, like the citations that we've been getting, like the arrests that have been made, and like our property being stolen by the Sheriff's Department.
You do not have permission to be out there. You do not have permission to be on this property. We have not chosen to enforce that. We know that you're here for your First Amendment rights, whether we agree with what your messages or not. We believe in that, and that's important, and we do not want to impede that, but we are the custodians of this property.
There is a feeling that there is a strategy being employed to associate Occupy with things that will cause disgust in the public mind.
My advice is that you exercise your First Amendment assembly rights on the steps here, but sleep somewhere else. I'm here because we want, the Sheriff's Office wants to avoid the situation where we use force to enforce the laws that we have. We're law enforcement officers. We reserve the right to use, force when it's appropriate.
The city isn't doing it. The county isn't doing it. Nobody's doing it.
And how do you define doing it?
Fixing the issues. It just, people keep on getting moved around, and now, and now here comes Occupy Santa Cruz, and so we become the scapegoat for it. But it just doesn't seem like this isn't our problem. This is society's problem that nobody is dealing with.
And at least because you're hearing from folks who are camping here who are trying to do the mediation and trying to do the nonviolent ways of helping dealing with these issues. We want to work with you on it.
So is that what you're looking for? Is training of your people?
And then resources at this site. And I think we need to talk not only to the county but also to nonprofits and other folks in the community. But there really ought to be more of a proactive strategy.
This meeting between a group of tired activists and seasoned professionals yielded little, but it did allow them to see and hear each other.
Now I met you, I'm going to worry more. Take care of it.
The day after Thanksgiving, the Occupy hosted a rave against the machine, and the community brought 200 pounds of food.
Commander X, day number 52 of Occupy Santa Cruz, and we are about to have our General Assembly and then one hell of a dance party. Day after Thanksgiving, everybody's all fattened up. I gotta go live on the radio now. You can see that thing happening right here, see? So I gotta talk to the people, see? Alright, bye-bye.
Many had gone to visit family, but for those who remained, Occupy Santa Cruz is family. Local citizens visited throughout the holiday to share food and community and to check up on the occupation, which had suffered a barrage of negative media throughout the month. The resilience of the occupiers was inspiring to many. The deputies continued to do their job.
not as uncouth, so in these very incredibly hard, trying times, we try to hold on to the last vestige of civilization. Cheers, Occupy Santa Cruz.
The sound system was loud enough to be heard in the jail across the street. Some of Santa Cruz's favorite DJs played. It feels good to dance and celebrate during an occupation of the public commons. Brings home the concept of for the people. The frequent emergency calls and perceived increase in violence had an effect on the gender diversity. A safe space for women and queers had become more desired. Porta potty news had become a media obsession bordering on porta potty porno. Here, units are shuffled around to maximize their use. The baseline fact is that people must go to the bathroom. Offering plentiful places for them to go is an important city and county function.
These signs here have been bushwhacked by a certain few people in the GA. I guess that's you. You make decisions about what goes on the front line every day here, but none of you are here with us. You don't take care of what goes on here at night. We've got enough problems without having snakes in our own camp doing this kind of thing at night, and then blaming the police and blaming the tweakers for things that they are deliberately doing to the occupation, ongoing, continuing. And you will see it, it's up on the video already, what's been happening, okay? Just check it out for yourself. I'm very sorry to interrupt you, ladies and gentlemen. So sorry.
Come on and wake up, it's time to shake up the sky. They're trying to break us, can't you hear our cry? We gotta rock them, we gotta occupy. They say we don't know what we're fighting for. Where are the leaders? Is this about class war? They get the bailout, but then they just want more. They get the feeling that the odds are sitting all with them. While they go on stealing, our souls are wearing thin. Come on and wake up, it's time to look at the light. They're trying to take us, it's time to testify. We gotta shut down, we gotta occupy. Trouble in the schoolhouse, trouble on the workhouse floor. Trouble with the greenhouse, trouble at the White House door.
Hey, why don't you stick around?
Money,
hey,
spend it on war. Don't get the feeling that they're stacking that deck so high. Never reach the ceiling until the day you die. Come on, wake up, we gotta shake up the sky. They're trying to break us, can't you hear our cry? We gotta rock 'em, we gotta occupy. We gotta rock 'em, we gotta occupy.
This project is self-funded, and as it contains much fair use content, I won't be making any money from it. So if you value this project, you may help me complete it by donating.